Here for more on the trial, we have Republican strategist and legal analyst Samantha Dravis and Democratic strategist, founder and president, Corcoran Street Group, Brad Howard. Samantha, we'll start with you. Trump supporters around the country appear to be energized by this. The donations pouring into the Trump campaign, $52.8 million in 24 hours. What can we expect this new phase of the campaign to look like, do you think?
Yeah, well, I think that the money that's been raised and the bump in the polling that we've seen, it's a stunning indictment of this process, which was a corrupt and unfair process from the start. And so I think that the Trump campaign is going to continue to educate voters about how unfair the judge's conflict of interest. He gave money to Joe Biden. You had a prosecutor that campaigned on imprisoning him. You had a jury pool that came from a venue where 87% of them voted for Joe Biden. And so there'll be a lot of education the Trump campaign wants to do with voters who may not have been paying attention to some of those things about the trial that the Trump campaign says are fair, including the multiple errors upon which they're going to be seeking reversal. But look, I think at the end of the day, none of this lawfare is starting to backfire on the Democrats because none of these cases against President Trump are going to distract voters ultimately from President Biden's record, which I think, frankly, voters are more concerned about his age and his terrible record as president than they are Trump's legal issues.
And Brad, for you, we were talking about the fundraising numbers, the Trump campaign releasing that, and they're continuing to push out fundraising emails. For the Biden campaign, we know they also have been fundraising off of this verdict, but they haven't released their numbers. Why do you think that is? Are they worried with the amount of money that is pouring into the Trump campaign right now?
No, here's a dirty little secret in politics is that you fundraise off anything you can think of to get money from your supporters because running for president is a costly endeavor. So you're going to see Trump fundraise on every single bit of the news he can. President Biden's going to do the same thing. The numbers will come out. When they come out, it's not like you can hide the numbers. They're publicly reported every month. So we'll see as the time comes. You're relying on the word of mouth of the campaign and not actually what's reported. So I think we should wait and see what we get from the public reports. But keep in mind that, like, most Americans inherently understand that Donald Trump is either corrupt or he is not. There's a small sliver of the American people that probably don't have an opinion on that. And they have months to go figure out how they feel about that. And I think the president's going to make his case. I think the president's got a good case when you're running against a guy who's been convicted of 34 felonies, first time in American history. And then the Republicans can say what they want about this trial. But at the end of the day, this was a solid trial. It was a documents case. They had, Donald Trump's signature on checks. It told a compelling story, and a jury of his peers, 12 people, even one juror whose primary source of information is Truth Social and Twitter, that person said guilty. So let's not go up to the judicial system here just to win an election, because the judicial system and law and order is critical to the future of this country and the stability of this country.
And Brad, one more for you here. President Biden had remarks yesterday that were added to his schedule on the Middle East, but he came out and addressed what happened, he said, in New York City. And then as he was leaving, reporters also tried to ask him about this verdict. I believe we have that clip. Let's play a little bit of that. So what happens is President Biden walks out of the room and doesn't answer the question. He looks back and grins. So the Trump campaign, one of his advisors retweeting that and saying this is what essentially corruption looks like. Do you think this was the right way to go about it? How did President Biden handle the response to this verdict?
I think President Biden bit his tongue. That's what you're seeing in that photo or that video. Second, it's really kind of taken off online as kind of an homage to Britney Spears. There's some funny memes online about that. I think he rightfully bit his tongue. I don't think you need to say anything about this. You've got when your opponent is convicted of 34 felonies, where his signature is on the checks, where this scheme was very clearly laid out in documents and papers and a story that the prosecutors did a wonderful job in telling, like a very clear job in telling, you don't need to say anything. And so I think the president was tempted to say something, bit his tongue, and thought better not to comment. And I think that's the right strategy here.
And I have seen the Britney Spears comparison meme, a lot of things popping around on Twitter this morning after that. Samantha, one more for you. Republican lawmakers I've seen also on X calling for the GOP convention to be moved because the sentencing date is set for July 11th. The Republican National Convention starts on July 15th. What do you make of that? Is that going to happen?
Well, first, I just want to quickly address one of Brad's comments. I guess I'll say if the Democrats want Justice Alito to recuse himself because his wife posted an upside down flag, I guess I'm curious why it's not an issue for them that Judge Merchan gave money to Joe Biden and then presided over a trial where he's trying to imprison Donald Trump so that he actually can't face Joe Biden at the ballot box. He wants to have him imprisoned. As far as the Republican convention, I mean, Donald Trump is going to be the Republican nominee. And I think the RNC convention and the Republicans will do whatever is necessary to make sure that he's able to accept the nomination in due course.
Samantha, Brad, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your insight.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Well, lawmakers